So we want to do code enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you really quick the Citizen portal actually allows you to submit requests, and you can put reports out there too, like, code enforcement complaints on a map or other information. So a lot of times we'll create specific reports, for giving the public information on things that happen. And you can go into Street View and Satellite View and all that sort of stuff when you're looking at the reports on the portal or on the staff side. So I wanted to show you kind of what we can do with, citizen requests, and which is like our general case management. Yep.
So Somerville, Massachusetts, they use this for everything across the board. And if someone makes a complaint about, like, they see a rat and whatever, then they'll go out and they'll set rat traps. And so they've got a report on their portal where you go out and see where all the rat traps are in the city.
A lot.
So we have two different types of cases in the system, right? And there's code complaints, and you can rename these. And then there's sort of a general case, which is like request tracking, streetlight repairs, internal, departmental, interdepartmental requests, any kind of file types. And all the forms we've been talking about with the custom fields, you can do with both types. And we can do enforcement within the permits and licenses, right? Which is really cool. So like if you've got a health license and you do health inspections, you can go in and cite all the violations with the same violation functionality that exists with the code cases. So it's really cool. I'm going to show you one of the, a form that just some of the possibilities. This one's got kind of a link where we're talking about, weeds and stuff, and it's pretty simple. It's just description and location. The request type here, I'm going to do problems, gyms, bar. So we've got an ability to have multiple file types. And you can have internal file types that are on the portal and stuff like that. And we were showing somebody how to do like a public information request on the portal. And I'm just going to pick this request related to an address. And then we can put the address in here. And then we've got kind of a dynamic form capability with this example, right? And you can do this with all the file types. You can determine what kind of issues you want to have. And so I'm going to say health and neighborhood. And it's like a wizard, in a way. It's sort of the form kind of based on the answers, it morphs into the types of questions we want to ask to get the problem resolved. So, I can go business issues, okay, and then, then you get additional questions like what type of business? Okay, it's a restaurant. And then now we're going to ask what's the name of the restaurant? And then we've got, a checkbox here to just kind of make it convenient. And you can do all this on get rid of that screen back there. You can do all this on an iPad or a, smartphone. And the forms, look good on the devices, right? They kind of morph into what you're using. I can put some text in here. This is so you can put a description in, and they can also have the ability to attach photos. So when you're on a phone, you're going to hit the select file button, and it's going to let you start taking pictures, right? So I've got probably a couple of pictures in here, and I'll add a couple to the case. And this is a configured submittal button that kind of allows me to add as many pictures as I want, right? If I want, I can save this for later. Maybe I got to go get something, but I can click submit, and that's going to route that to whoever's in charge of that file type, or whatever department's in charge of that file type can go to the unassigned activity queue, all that sort of stuff. So we can get citizen requests, any different file types, any forms. We can get code enforcement complaints, multiple file types. Sometimes we do, one department at the city might be doing property maintenance, right? Another department at the city might be doing health and environmental, right? And so, those are file types in Citizenserve, and, that they can all be owned by departments, and the inspection types and the processes and everything can be owned. So it's not just like there's just one code enforcement feature. You can set up enforcement within your permits and licenses. You can also set up any number of case types or file types within the departments, and then the departments can own their own enforcement. Fire might have its own enforcement. The police department, we've kind of been doing. Sometimes we end up doing, citations, ticketing, parking enforcement. It's almost unlimited, kind of what we can do with the file types and case types in the system. So let's look at the staff side enforcement features there.
That Citizenserve submit code enforcement complaints to the code?
Yeah, right now we use a C-click fix.
Okay. You gonna continue to use that, or would you?
We're open. Our goal is to get off of CityWorks, and that's where all of our complaints come through now.
We've done integration with C-click fix before.
Okay. I think we're open to new. I don't think we're married to C-click fix. I think that's just because that was their connection into CityWorks.
Yeah, we've done. Sometimes we work with cities. They already have a citizen request tracking thing that maybe another department purchased, right? I know that, like, with Somerville, Massachusetts, like constituent services or something, they got something different than the community development department. And we have to pick up their certain requests and create files automatically in Citizenserve with that. The code enforcement looks just like the permitting. And you can, for each user, you can kind of control what, modules they have access to. So, I can take away, if I'm just doing code enforcement, I would just see code enforcement on my menu here. The homepage is going to be the same, kind of the same thing. You've got your task, which really is going to be your inspections. You can go and show your inspections on a map, and you can click on the inspections and drill down on the features. You can pull in zoning information, click on the zones and see. So you can, work with the layers and information in the system like that. Sometimes we do other layers. We might do, kind of asset layers and stuff like that. And if there's any information behind the pins, you can see that. And there's going to be a calendar. Usually in code enforcement, the inspections are on your to-do list, but not really a calendar event. Things that are calendar events are usually hearings. If you have to go to a court hearing about a case, that might show up on your calendar. We can have different metrics, kind of open cases, time it takes to close a case, listing of your violations by type. It's customizable based on, what that user wants to see. And we also add these metrics as part of support. So if you ever want a metric that's not on the list, our support team will create it for you. Recent files are all going to be here, so you can conveniently open anything that's in there. And then you can have reports on your homepage, like if you run certain reports or notices and stuff like that. This weedy lot notice is probably modeled after one of our customers in California, because they got to clean up their lots every year before fire season. This is, just an example of we call it a report, but it's a notice. We do a lot of notices in the system, and this is just an example of that.
Pick like, you guys may do this out here. Let's say you wanted to send out a letter to everyone that had a tall grass violation last year. right? So you can send that out. We create that as a mail merge and say maybe 500 people had them last year. You send all 500 email and or regular mail saying, hey, we're going to be looking for this again this year. We're going to be out. You had a violation last year. Please make sure you are proactive on this. Yeah. Right. So you're getting ahead of the game. And then if you show up on a property and you see there's 12, look in that file and say, oh, we sent these guys a letter. They have it again this year. They had it last year. Had it again this year, and we sent them kind of that pre-notice that we were going to be looking at it.
That's kind of, we don't do that with Crest now if they were a violator. We have our frequent flyer, our repeat offender list that we do that.
And you can do that repeat offender list, not just by property, but by person too. So if they move, we do a lot of that with Compton, California. They have that where people are moving around and they track not just the property, but the people and have that same kind of
a good idea.
Thing.
So let's create a case. We can, say somebody called in, and of course we can get the cases off the portal. I'm going to do a code case here, and we're going to it's pretty simple stuff to open the case. They say it's weeds in an abandoned vehicle. I can put that in here. Spell checking is built into all the browsers, so we're going to ask for a complainant. You don't have to put this in, but I'll put one in. You're always going to search for the person. We do a lot of connecting properties and people, right? So you can look at a person and see everything that's going on with that person. You can look at a property and see everything that's going on at the property. So I'm going to pick Granny here, but if I could create a new contact, if I wanted to. And then this is the file types. Most of our customers are just, that are in code enforcement, they just see one file type, code enforcement. But we can set up different types of enforcement cases. I'll put in part of an address. And so here we're going to just put in a little information on the address, and we can pull up the property. Once we pull up the property, we're going to pull in, the owner information, parcel number, whatever property information you want to pull into this file type, we're going to pull it in, right? And then these icons show up here. So, when you're selecting the address, and this is the same when you're entering a permit or a license, you're going to see these icons here. If there's alerts on the property, you'll see that. This other files icon, used throughout the system, it just means there's other files on that property. So I can click on that and I can see that, hey, maybe there's another open code enforcement case there, and I really just want to go add the complainant to that case, right? It's already open. And we can use the map here too. So, we've got the map feature. In this particular, when you're opening a file, you can show open files. So it's sort of like, hey, I want to see everything that's going on in the area. And you can click on the pins and kind of see what else is happening in the vicinity of the, the problem property. You also have the ability to open layers here. I can also pick the property from the map. So, here, if the complainant gave me their address and they're like, well, it's a blue house at the end of the street, I can drag the pin and it'll change the address up here for me, right? So you can move the pin around based on, if the person tells you, oh, this is where it is, you can do that. So you can have different districts, so your council members and stuff can get their own reports, and then we can have categories. The categories are kind of a higher level than violations typically are. So, it's good to have those for reporting purposes. How you received then these are all customizable drop-down list boxes. And we're going to queue up a activity to follow up, so this is really the same for general cases and also enforcement cases. We just have how are we going to follow up on this, right? And we can, pick another department if it's somebody else's responsibility, or we can have another follow-up activity like, animal control or something like that, right? When I'll put a start date in, this is when it starts showing up on someone's calendar, and I'll put a due date in. This is, really if we made any promises about, what we're going to do, we'll want to put that in there. And so that's creating the case. We're going to have the Google Street View here. You can change this picture if you want to something you took in the field or whatever. Well, the case is, looks very similar to other file types in Citizenserve. We've got the notes and history. If you talk to somebody on the phone, you can just hit note here and, put in that you're doing a phone call and talk to someone on the phone. So that's pretty simple stuff. We keep a complete history too. So we've got our notes and history here, and then the people involved in the case are here, and we're going to show you, anything associated with Granny. We've got alert on Granny here. We've got notes. We can see notes on Granny, and then we can also see all the other files she's associated with. So maybe she is she's somebody who complains a lot or something like that. We'll be able to quickly see all the other files that she's associated with in Citizenserve. You can also see their association. So we can have, as part of the file, we can have multiple complainants, tenants, property managers, the bank, all sorts of stuff. Activities are going to be like your inspections, hearings, whatever your process or the things that you do to resolve the cases, that's going to be in the activities. Documents is going to contain pictures, violation notices, all that sort of stuff. So typically what happens is, you're going to go out there, you're going to be in the field, and you show up at a property, you're going to pull this off your list of things, right? And here's the one we just did. And, you might click on the inspection here, and it'll take me to the activity. But really, I'm going to just jump in and start adding violations, right? And this is a violation. It's kind of like a wizard. You're walking around the property, and you can pick from the short description. You can pick from the code. You can look up the full ordinance with the ... there. Go back to my weeds here. I'll say we got weeds, and you can pick different follow-up dates for each violation. Sometimes there's an imminent safety hazard, and you want to follow up on that right away. And then other things you might follow up later, or you can just have one, schedule a reinspection and just have one follow-up date. The add documents here is going to allow you to, basically just take pictures from your camera. So I'll add a couple of documents here, and then they're going to come in as photographs. We can say that if something's cryptic from a camera, we can describe what we want to put in there, and I'll click save. So this saves these pictures with this violation, right? So if you are walking around and you see another violation, you click on save and add another, and you throw in your description here. I'm going to put in some comments. Homeowner to move car to rear G, and then we can snap a picture here of a car. I got a car here, so. And we'll save that. So when we're done, we kind of, we're done walking around and taking pictures and noting violations. We hit save. Now, at this point, a lot of our customers just print out the notice of violation and put it on the door, or hand it to the homeowner, right? So we're going to do that with a letter. And I wanted to show you too, so the pictures are going to show up here in the photos, here, and you can show thumbnails. You can use the markup tool in here. So there's, an ability to kind of mark up pictures. And I can click on that, and we can do measurements. If you took if you needed to measure something out there, you could, get a perspective kind of from that, the picture, and then you can take measurements if you want to. Stuff like that. You can mark up the pictures, and I'll just save that. So the icon turns red when you're doing that. And then the violations show up here. You can manage the violations separately. So I can click on the violations. I can, close. I can go out on a reinspection, close to open another one, stuff like that. But let's do the letter. We're going to show you everybody involved when we do the letter. And this functionality is available for all the modules, right? When I pick my letter here, I've got, the ability to include pictures. Let me show my thumbnails again if I want to. I can include pictures with my letter, right? So if you're doing a building inspection and you took 4 photos, you could put them in your inspection report. So I'll go ahead and include these. And here it's asking me if I want to do my markups. So I'll say no. And then we're going to put in a certified mail number, but this could be, these are kind of like, we call it a letter variable. It's information that you're collecting when you generate a letter. Driver's license number for a citation, certified mail number when you're sending out a certified mail. So, and I can click generate. And this is my letter here. So I can print it, I can edit it. We'll go ahead and print this out. So this is the notice, right? And we've got our code officer's signature dynamically put into the letter here. And we've got our pictures, right? So we've got pictures in there. And, this is kind of the non-print view, but you can add text or edit that. So.
I haven't seen that boat picture before, Jim.
Yeah, that's the cheating husband boat. It's like, it's kind of funny. It's we get funny pictures with the code cases. So
question about the letter.
Question.
Yeah.
I do have a question about the letter where you said you could edit it. Can you edit every single thing in that letter, or is there certain things that cannot be?
If you've got the rights to edit, we don't really. There's not sections of the letter that you can't edit, so you could edit everything, but you can take that right away.
There's 2 different ways to look at it. You can edit the letter template, which you may not have the ability to do that, versus now I want to create that letter and I want to add some stuff to it before I send it out.
I change the name of the person you're sending it to if it's an occupant.
Right. Yeah. But in that case, you probably select the occupant and do that letter if they're on this thing.
If they're on there, right? I got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Editor, once it's generated to make changes to the letter itself, it wouldn't change the template.
Okay.
And the letters are going to show up in the Documents tab. So you'll see all the notices and stuff there. So let's go over to, so I want to complete my inspection. And we can do forms here too. This doesn't really have a form or anything. I can just put in that I noted violations, took pictures. And so I can put that in. Now you can take pictures right from here. You can generate letters sometimes we have activity letters like, citation notice and activity might go together. We can schedule a follow-up. So this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to jump in and just schedule a follow-up activity. So I'm going to come back and do a reinspection next week, right? And that's kind of, doing the inspection, scheduling a follow-up, generating a letter. Now, if I go back out there and there's a problem, I can escalate this, right? Maybe I just go to letter and, here's where we would have, hey, we're going to do, there's a hearing or, you can start out with a courtesy notice, but these are sort of the way that we escalate. We're going to do a citation, right? We can put the pictures in the citation if we want. and generate the letter. So this is, just another letter type. Now, this is, we were talking earlier about the query letter. We're, with the citations, we can, assess the daily fines and, put those in the file, right? So, when I save this, if I go back over here to my fees, I can see we're kind of adding fees and fines and stuff to the file. So we can do a lot with, because we can incorporate some SQL or database script with the letter itself. It's kind of an event when it gets generated, and then we, start assessing fees and stuff like that. So it's basically just like a stored procedure that gets executed when the letter is generated. So we got started in code enforcement, and we have, I think, our largest code enforcement customer is the city of Sacramento. And they use us for, all sorts of stuff, but, it's kind of their rental housing inspection program, all their code enforcement, all the way up to cleaning up lots and tearing down buildings and stuff like that. And even, I think we're doing like their cannabis enforcement and stuff too, since they did that recently. So when you're, a lot of times with code enforcement, you're gonna get to a point that you might have to print out the file and take it to court, or you might have to, print out the file to a PDF and send it to somebody to deal with, right? So there's a file reports feature in Citizenserve, and I can go in here basically and just select everything in the file. I can individually pick things if I want, but I'll just go ahead and generate this. And this is basically going to take everything in the file and put it into one document. All the notices that we sent out, all the pictures that we took, really everything is going to end up in this report. And, that way, we can, print this to a PDF. We can print it out on paper and bring it to court, all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the short review of code. Any questions?
Could you go through how one of those alerts would get attached to a address file?
Okay, so if we wanted to go look up this address, right, we could do it up here if we want. We can go to search property, and if I type in the address that we were working with, this is going to give us the property view, right? So, and there's a person view too. And it's easier to get to than what I just did, but this is the property, right? And so you can add alerts to the property. You can you can do that. You can add documents, like whatever pictures that are associated with the property, but not really another file, right? So I can see all the property information, but I can also see all the files. These are all, I use this address for my demo, so there's a whole bunch of code enforcement cases, but permits, licenses, all the inspections that have ever happened at this location, all the violations that have ever been cited here, and whether they're open or closed, all the documents, including all the pictures and stuff like that, you can have here. Notes, you can do notes on properties too, and that looks like there's a fees. We can track, daily fines that are due, so there's a bunch of fines that are due on the property. So when you're on the case, it's actually really easy to get to that screen. If I go down to the case we were working with here, it's just right here. You can easily see other files on the property. So you can open the property in a map view, right? So you can do that. You can see all the other files on the property, right? Now, if you want to drill down on the property, you can just click on the binoculars here, and this opens the property view. So, and I'm also still back on my file. So I can be, I can be looking at the property information and the case at the same time. So, and then it's the same is true for people. So here's my people, and this is granting. I can click on granting, and this is going to open her basic information. You know, her association with the case could be anything, really. We could change it if we want. Phone numbers, contact information, email information. But if I want to see everything about her, you know, here's the contact view or people view. And when I'm looking at this, I can see all the files she's involved in, all of her permits, licenses, all the documents associated with her, and then any fees that she owes, you know. So, you know, really kind of, and then I can add, you know, I can add documents to people, notes to people. And then if, you know, there's a payment option here, which is kind of like if somebody, you can look up somebody if they come in, hey, I want to pay my bills, you know, you look them up and you can, when you click on payment, if they owe any money for anything, it'll pull everything up. So one thing I wanted to show you just because it's worth looking at is on the iPad, you know, I talked about the wizard. I wanted to show you how the, you know, when you're walking around the property, you know, how the iPad looks. And it could be anything. Works great on Android. There we go. So if I want to go to my case, you know, I've got my recent files and we've got that case down here. So I can open that up. And then if I'm adding violations, right, I just click on the violation over here and it pulls up, this pulls up the wizard. And then, you know, this is what it looks like on the iPad. And so when you're selecting stuff, you know, you're going to see sort of the, you know, the finger friendly version of that. And so, you know, I could say that they've got rodent harborage, right? You can use the speech to text. There's rats everywhere at this property. The camera, you know, is going to work just like with the building inspections. You know, when I say select files, it's going to be like, hey, what do you want to do? And I can click on the camera and it's going to, you know, pull up the camera and I can just run around taking pictures, right? And they're going to go right in the file. You know, so that's kind of how easy it is to use that, you know, and then, you know, as I'm walking around, I just click save and add another. And, you know, I can go in and enter another violation. And, you know, more comments, I can add more pictures, et cetera, right? And then, you know, click save, and this is going to show up in violations. My, you know, pictures are going to show up here in the pictures. It's just really, really easy to use. In the field, you know, I can change my picture if I want. If I take a picture out in the field, I can upload an image, pick something from the file. That all make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we, you know, we've been doing, you know, code for 16 years now or something like that, you know, so it's, you know, very functional. And we do a lot of processes like, you know, send out work order to a contractor to go clean up a property and then, you know, bill the homeowner, right, for the cleanup. We do that type of stuff. Really, it's just, we've done a lot of different unique enforcement cases, so.
Did you want to ask the question, Mike's standard question about?
I already saw that on there.
You saw the status of all outstanding cases, and I assume you can assign cases just like you do inspections for the other module. I would assume it's all the same.
Then you got your metrics too, which you can use to create custom metrics around certain way you want to look at stuff. Drill down on it, go down on the information.
One thing I wanted to show you really quick. So this is Somerville, Massachusetts, and we do their health enforcement stuff. So, and this is a health inspector, but I wanted to show you that we can take the, if I go to their licenses here and we go to, I'm trying to think of somebody that might have a violation or two. You can see this violations tab here. So this is when we're, you know, taking a license, and we can do this with permits too. And we just add the violations feature to that license. And so, basically this is their, this is their food license, but we track all the violations with the license. So they have a bunch of, violations here, and we can do, any kind of notices, tickets, citations, forms. They have, with their inspection, they have kind of a simple form. This is kind of everything down here is the form. It's simple, but we incorporate, when we do their inspection report, we incorporate the violations into the, and this is their, state mandated, form that we have put in Citizenserve, but we have the violation listing would be down here. So if there was any open violations, we incorporate that into the inspection form. And
that's a good example. So in Massachusetts, the cities do all what the counties would do out here for that type of licenses, but they have to report to the state. And so this is the format that the state requires. So and then we create that in matches and looks exactly like what the state accepts.
But there, we had to duplicate the ticket format also. So I just searched on all the overcrowding. And so this one over here is a non-criminal ticket. We've got a bunch of different cases in here. If I go to the ticket, so this is like a notice to lien. Different than a ticket, but same thing. It's like in a format where they can stuff it into a envelope and send it off to folks. It's kind of another demand notice. We can do any kind of tickets, notices, those types of things in the system. So any questions?
I think so. No?
Awesome.